Hello out there. When I was in high school, there was a computer program. We used a dumb terminal. It was a teletype, really. And one of the things that you could do is put in your birthday, and after you wrote the little program that came with it, uh, it would tell you how many hours you spent sleeping so far, and also when you could retire. And I'm thinking back on that as I'm thinking about technology. And when I was a kid, I thought of the future like the Jetsons, where everybody lived in the sky and they had flying cars and they had dogs that could talk and they had jetpacks and 3-day work weeks. And really, what it's turned out to be is that the Jetsons predicted that the future, which, as I visioned it as a child, would be about now, is what we're really living in. It was right in that all of the technology that they had, very little of it worked right. And I find a lot of technology not working right. And I tried not to be that person. When I was younger, my parents were leery of anything that sparked of technology. Remote control might cause a fire. The more fancy things like automatic garage door openers were just something that nobody really needed. And they may have been right. Now, we couldn't have foreseen smartphones and computers in the way that we use them. But I have found in my old age that I am not as savvy as I would like myself to believe. Now, having worked in broadcasting for 45 years, I always thought, well, I'm around high tech. I know how to fix high tech. I know how to anticipate what's going to go wrong and deal with it. And as computers became much more common, I found that the less and less I knew about what I was doing in as far as making a computer work in order to make other things work. So here are my 5 things that I was taken aback by as I thought that I was a tech savvy person. Number 1, Siri has a hearing disorder. I found that when I was anywhere traveling, driving somewhere, that inevitably I would get some kind of text notification. Now, I obviously don't want to text while I'm driving. I don't want to stop and pull over while I'm doing that. And so I found that you can give voice commands. And so I tell Siri to read the text to me. And about half the time that goes without anything, any reaction at all. And trying to send a text, I find also that whatever it was that I said was not really transcribed properly. Now, I know that I have been a broadcaster for a long time and that I round my vowels, I articulate well. I'm not someone who mushmouths through commands to the phone. And yet it still has a way of saying something completely different than what I said to it. And sometimes when it will repeat a command back to me, it will be the wrong thing, and I'll find myself shouting at Siri and calling it names. And I don't know what I would look like to someone who's driving by as I'm waving my hands and shouting with no one else in the car with me. But I suppose if anybody else has a smartphone, they know what I'm going through. Number 2, on the other hand, Alexa is too sensitive. I can walk by and say something that sounds like Alexa and it'll activate. Yes, what can I do for you? No, shut up. I get unnerved by that kind of thing. And I'm not one of these kind of people that think that it's listening to me and is going to share all my secrets to the world, which, I don't really have any secrets that Alexa could pick up on and really go anywhere with. But it does tend to want to set something going just whenever I'm within earshot of it. And I found even in things that I want to do, and most of the time what I want to do is set a timer. I'm boil an egg, set a timer for like 8 minutes, and it'll set the timer for 8 minutes. And then a little while in, I'll say, how much time do we have? And they set another timer. How much do you want to set this timer for? No, I don't want to do that. All right, 7 minutes. No, I don't want to do the 7 minutes. Tell me what time we've got. On which timer is that? help me. Passwords. Now, even when I was working, I think I had about 40 of them. And in order to be able to keep any of them straight, I had to write them down in a book. And I thought, once I'm retired, I'm not going to have as many passwords. Wrong. Because every streaming service, every bank thing, every stockbroker, every mail order has their own passwords that you have to go, and you have to have the two-step authentication, and I understand the deal behind it, but somehow I think it would be easier for the hackers to get into it than it is for me. Now, right now, to have a good password, they have to have something that you can't possibly remember. You have to have letters and numbers and capitals and lowercase and symbols and a fart noise, I think, in order to have a legal password. And it has to be about 28 characters long. And it has to be something that no one would guess and something that you can remember. I write it down and then I forget where I wrote it down. So I find myself, and this is number 4, using password reminders. Now, password reminders are almost as bad because they ask you a question like, what was your favorite movie when you were 16? Now, not only do I have to know what my favorite movie was when I was 16, I have to remember what I said my favorite movie was when I was 16, now some years later, and I have no idea. I don't know if I capitalized the letters on the type of car I was driving, or if I put in the first name of the person that the school was named after, or if I went someplace else immediately. If I had the wrong grandmother picked up for her maiden name, it just completely floors me, and most of the time I just have to start all over again. And number 5, even televisions have passwords. At one time, you turned on the television and the show came on. And now even with the most minor thing that you want to do, you turn the TV on. The TV has a password in order for it to use its smart capabilities, which is to say smarter than I am. So in order for the speakers to come on and everything to work, you have to have the password for that. Then every streaming service, which is the way you get all your programs now, has its own password. And most of the time it remembers it and just comes on. But at a time when you really want to see something and you have limited time, it then says, well, what's your password? Okay, and so once again, you have to have this 28-character password with letters and numbers and symbols and noises and a happy face. And you have to put all that in by remote control. So they give you a letter board. And so you have to go with the remote control and move it over to the right letter and make sure that it's punched in, because remote controls half the time don't work either. You push the button and sometimes it will mute and sometimes it won't. And sometimes it'll mute just if you drop it. But so you're having to do a password this way. And after you've gotten through all of that, you push it and it says, no, that's not it. Now, you don't get to look at it and see what you missed. You have to start right over from the very beginning. Now, I have arthritis in my hands. This becomes to the point where I just don't want to watch the show. So that's my problems with technology these days. I hated to turn into my parents. I've come into a different stage of turning into my parents. Things that never occurred to them are now flummoxing me the same way things like remote controls and digital cameras did to them. So I'd like to know what you struggle with. Please put it in the comments below. And if you would please subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate that as well. So thank you for joining us. And until next time, don't go far.